Welcome to In It to Win It. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We're coming to you from the 2026 Rules Symposium in Boca Raton, and I'm here with Jean-Marc Staude of Riverside Resources. John, thank you for coming on the show.
Steve, great on your show. I love it.
Yeah, I enjoy your energy. It's obvious that you're passionate about what you do. Okay, quick overview, market cap, cash, and debt of Riverside Resources.
Riverside's market cap is 25 million, our cash is 5 million, and we have no debt.
Okay, 25, 5, and 0. Awesome. And so your model is a prospect generator or royalty generator. Can you kind of give us a quick overview of what that is? Describe your business model.
Totally. So our business model is to use other people's money to acquire properties, to progress them with partners doing the de-risking of the asset, and Riverside retaining a royalty. We've been doing that now for 20 years, and we have 14 royalties. We have a full portfolio in different jurisdictions, and that model is very good because it doesn't mean that we are taking the risk as shareholders. The partners, it's a shared risk model where we put up the property and the partners put up the capital.
Okay. And how do you secure these properties?
It's a great question with three ways. First off is we stake them. Second is we option them from others. The third is we actually buy them. And so we're continually looking and using our databases to find what are the best locations, and then we stake them where we can. Also, we do deals with people to option properties, and eventually we can actually acquire them and buy them. And we usually don't have to spend too much. We try to get them on wholesale, try to get them out there and kind of privately, maybe in local locations where there isn't a lot of marketing or competition for those properties, and then we add a lot more around them and make them much bigger where they can be of interest to the majors and to be a big play.
Okay. And where on the planet are your properties?
So we try to focus in North America. So we have properties currently in British Columbia and Canada, properties in Mexico, particularly in the state of Sonora, and in Nevada and Arizona. So that's the overall general portfolio of where we are.
Okay. And what is your background that has led you to this? Okay, you used to work for BHP and Teck.
Right on, Steve.
Okay.
It's great. And I love coming on your show with you and Gloria. You guys do such great work. And for myself, I've been doing this for all my career. So my background is technical. I have a PhD. I did technical work in geology, working in the major companies like BHP and Teck Resources and Rio Tinto, and that was great. And then 20 years ago, I left that and founded Riverside. So my technical background really helped, and now this operational of 2 decades of doing it, where we've had 7 strategic alliances working for major companies. So they've done the due diligence, where they have funded 3 or 4 years of work. So they've done the due diligence for shareholders. Say, look, these guys have put up all the money and used us, and we've developed a portfolio, done over 90 projects in those last 2 decades.
Okay. So you're in Canada and Mexico. You guys are all in the same general time zone.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And prospector generator. What commodities are you focused on?
So we're focused particularly right now. We have a lot of rare earth elements, and that's exciting. That's new, but gold is a key aspect. So precious metals, gold and silver with royalties and quite a few millions of ounces in royalty on gold and silver. And then we also have copper, porphyry copper. So we have copper, rare earth elements in terms of the critical metals, and then precious metals, gold and silver.
Okay. All right. So I wrote down Union, Ariel. Those are both down in Mexico, right?
Right on.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay. And they're up in the northern part of Mexico in Sonora?
Perfect, man.
Okay.
You've done great research. Exactly right. And so we always work in Sonora. Sonora is the equivalent of Nevada for the United States. Sonora is the mining state, like Nevada is a key mining state in the United States, or Quebec or Ontario would be the key mining provinces in Canada. So Sonora produces over 38% of all the mineral wealth of the entire country of Mexico, particularly a focus on copper and gold. And so our offices are in Hermosillo, Mexico, and our projects are in Sonora, Mexico. So that's where we work. The Union project, we're drilling right now. Super excited about the drilling. We're at it. We'll have news flow. Tomorrow we'll have another news release. Things are coming out. And Ariel is a porphyry copper. That copper project we worked on with Antofagasta, which is a copper company, BHP. So it's a really nice project that we own 100% now as Riverside. So it's a very good copper project adjacent to Mexico's second largest copper operation, and Mexico is a major copper producer at a world scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
And up in
Sonora,
BC, British Columbia, you've got Revel,
Yes.
Taft, and Deer Park.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so we really like British Columbia. In British Columbia, the Revel project is a rare earth element project. We're working there, we're working with a partner, progressing on that, and super excited about the impact and significance of rare earth elements. The need to have Canadian sourced, national sourced to kind of compete with China, and this real need to have our own sources for it. The Deer Park project, we also have another one called the Red Top, Red Jacket, and these are projects that we have that are in gold and silver, projects that are in southern British Columbia. You can drive to it, really good locations near former mines and in really favorable locations, and we own those. And so we're progressing those this year with drill results, exploration results. We'll have drilling coming, but exploration results and surface sampling and soil sampling at those.
Okay. And what? Give us your share structure. Who owns your company? How much do you own? Do you have any vested partners? What's available to retail? Give us the pie chart breakdown.
It's great. We have a wonderful pie chart on our website, which is rivres.com. So you can go to, and we have a total of 93 million shares outstanding. We have a big ownership by the person running this conference, Rick Rule. He's a big owner in it. We also have a very strong European shareholder base. 38% of that pie chart is European shareholder base. We have retail investors, which is about 10% of it in terms of high net worth retail investors. Management, that has 9% of it. Rick Rule's at 8%. We also have a Sprott group, they're in at 12%. And so that's excellent. And then if you finish out the rest of the pie chart is just general retail as well. So it's a retail, not an institutional company. And we've been able to do nice dividends over the last years where we spun out shares from the companies we've created. So it's been a really great financial return to shareholders.
Okay, one of those spinouts was Blue Jay, correct?
Right on.
Okay, tell us what happened there. I don't totally understand it.
So it's really simple. The way I try to describe it is if you own shares in a stock, kind of like Google or something, you get a share split.
Yeah.
So we do a share split. When we share split, we actually split the company and you get back a share of Riverside again, but also a share of Blue Jay.
Of the new company.
And the new company. So
Okay.
that new company started off at 20 cents and then 40 cents. It's now at 80 cents. It's done really well. And we've done that multiple times. We did that with Capitan Silver as well. We started out at 20 cents. It's now trading around $2. So that's a 10 bagger.
Yeah.
So people are really happy to get these spin out shares. So by owning Riverside, we do these corporate splits. By doing it, it's not really a dividend, but it's basically functionally like a dividend. It's just not taxed because it's a share split.
Yeah.
So it's tax favorable in that respect. And those companies that we've created have then moved along. We've been able to create 7 companies out of Riverside over the last 2 decades. Some of the other companies would be the kind of the formational part of Faraday Copper, the formation of Silver Viper, Arizona Metals would be some of these other companies that started from the assets in Riverside and then grew. So we're the seed, we're the nurturer, we're the creator of these different businesses, providing the assets. So Blue Jay right now, we're drilling, super excited. Riverside on certain properties has a 2% net smelter royalty on some of the projects that are in Blue Jay.
Okay.
The drilling right now is in the Yukon. We're not a royalty holder, but we're shareholders.
Okay.
Riverside has shares, and then of course our shareholders created as a spinout, and then new capital came in to grow Blue Jay. So really excited for Blue Jay Gold, the drilling and exploration, and the Riverside shareholders are along for the ride. So it's a really great business model to play with.
So did you essentially? How did you get Blue Jay? What was
I created it.
Okay.
So basically, my wife likes birds. I don't know. I mean, and I haven't been to Hawaii, so I'm just having to make up, Blue Jays, and it's in Ontario, and the Ontario, there are other Blue Jays there too. They play baseball and stuff. So like, what the heck, So we like that, and so named it Blue Jay. And basically, we had worked for 5 years building a portfolio of assets in Ontario.
Okay.
And it was time to get that to go on its own.
Yeah.
Kind of like a child getting to high school, college, time to move out of the house.
Yeah.
So we needed to move out of the house, and so we had a really great CEO join us, Jordy Mark. Wonderful to have that. Our exploration manager, our VP exploration, Freeman Smith, could go and work on that and do that. So Jordy and Freeman moving it ahead. So we created Blue Jay. So it basically took our subsidiary, our Ontario subsidiary, and then separated that from Riverside, financed it, and moved it out, and had the shares of that Riverside could have retained.
Yeah.
Instead of Riverside retaining them, we wanted what was best for shareholders.
Okay.
What was best for shareholders was to actually, instead of Riverside retaining those shares, to move those shares over through a plan of arrangement directly to the shareholders. So
Okay.
it's really a great structure, and it's really wonderful, and that's how we did it. So we didn't take over another company. There's no cheap shares. There's no free shares. It's very transparent. And so you start off there with only 20 million shares and then more investment in. And so now Blue Jay has 40 million shares going ahead. Really excited to be a shareholder in that. And I'm a director in that. Very excited about the future of Blue Jay. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is, how can I word what keeps you up at night? So like, what's your biggest unanswered question facing Riverside?
First off, drinking too much coffee late in the day. That's not a good thing. When I do that, I'm in trouble. And my wife's like, why are you drinking coffee? You know, it just tastes good. So that's one thing. You know, I didn't drink coffee till I moved to Canada. In Canada, there's too many coffee shops in Vancouver. Everyone wants to go to these coffee meetings. So that keeps me up at night. That's one thing. But really, I think the concept is, you know, really is it about people? Really looking out for people, for safety, making sure that we have the right people, and also just making sure that we're delivering for shareholders. I really want to do that. I've been running this company for a long time, or maybe it's been running me, and it's been a lot of fun, and we have a lot of good shareholders. I really want to look out after them. At this point, we've done very well. The companies, the spinouts have been fantastic with these great returns, and so really is how do I keep growing the business, and how do I make sure that we're doing the best thing for shareholders?
Okay. Well, what's next for Riverside? What's your next project? What's your next
Three
focus?
things that are really next. First is immediate results in Mexico and also in British Columbia. So we're drilling right now. There'll be a news release. We're progressing, and that's exciting, and new acquisitions. The second is about our royalties, getting more royalties, converting our portfolio into royalties. And the third is exciting. You know, 7 new companies have come out of Riverside. We've done it 7 times, and we've dividended those shares twice. We're going to do it again.
Okay. Okay. Which one do you think will be the next one?
So I think we've built up a core portfolio in Mexico.
Okay.
It's fully permitted, and we've just completed a brand new 43-101 technical report. We've just completed the required spending that one would need to do that would set that up for Mexico, for our Sonora portfolio as a possible forward-looking statement. Not yet kind of out there, but we're going in that direction, and that would be really good maybe in 2027. So buying shares right now, I've been buying more shares myself. It's really good. I'm accumulating, delighted to have it. I'm already a big shareholder, but I'm super excited about that third catalyst for Riverside.
Okay. You're permitted in Mexico.
We are.
That's apparently pretty difficult these days.
You know, it's really good. There's 2 parts of permit. One is exploration, the other's mining.
Yeah.
So we're in exploration.
That's why it's much easier.
Much easier.
Okay.
But people are able to get mining permits, and there's 2 types of mine. There's underground and open pit. Our projects, you can do either one on.
Okay.
So we're focusing on targets that are underground, not deep, believing in the short term, okay, they can be underground. I believe in the medium term, open pits will be more favorable again, and then they could convert back to open pit. So we're trying to look for those high grade underground, so it is quite permittable, what we're working on, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And when people think of Mexico, if you're dealing with some, I don't know, local things down there, I'm thinking cartel. You up in Sonora, you guys don't have issues like that?
Correct, you don't. And so one of the key aspects is we work on private ranches.
Okay.
By working on private ranches, we don't have communities, we don't have the same community issues. We welcome community and community participation, but if you're on a private ranch with a locked gate, you don't have cartel, you don't have that, you basically are working. And so we've been able to focus. We have a database of 75,000 locations in Mexico I've worked on for over 30 years. So with 75,000 locations, we can choose the top 75, and then you're still at the 1 in 1,000 filter.
Okay. Okay.
So we're filtering to what are the most workable, and with this huge database, we can decide where do we want to work.
Yeah.
And so we go to where there's not a cartel, we're not making any cartel payments, we're not having any issues with security, we're very focused, knock on wood, really, really key. We use all local people. Everyone speaks Spanish, everyone lives there. We work with people that are in the local community, local area. So therefore, you're not bringing in foreign people or anything like that. We're all working together and creating jobs and a future for everyone involved. And that's really important. Also, we're not producing metal. We're just doing exploration, finding resources. So it's very early on. So we're not exposed to that. But we try to make sure we go to places that's not going to be an issue in the future.
Yeah, okay. That limits risk.
Exactly.
How many guys you got working for you?
So we have about 40 people total, divided up with teams that are working in Canada, teams that are working in Mexico, and then a back office as well. Many of the people, we have no employees. Everyone's kind of working as a consultant contractor and multiple different things. And in Mexico, that goes up and down, tied to what we're doing with the drilling program or work right now. And in Canada, we're at the summer work program. So we have field teams going at the Revel project, field teams going at the Red Jacket project, so it's active, and then we'll reduce that down. So generally we can have as few as 15 people over the winter time when it goes slower.
Okay. And what's your G&A cost every year?
Our G&A, we've been able to operate the company overall at about $1 million of our overall income and about $2 million of overall spend for the last decade.
Okay.
We have partner spending of $4 or $5 million into the company, so it's a really good ratio. And when we get that, we get a 10% fee managing the operating projects we're doing with partners. So if they're doing $1 million program, we're getting $100,000 of income into it. So sometimes we're actually showing a profit instead of a loss annually from that. So our G&A is largely covered by our operating that we can do for other partners. That's how we've been able to have $5 million cash this year, last year, the year before. We have a really good stability in our balance sheet.
Okay. Awesome. Is there anything that, what could go wrong, I guess, is what could go wrong?
It's about safety. It's about people. I think also as the general market is really difficult. And so when it goes down, luckily we own the royalties. We're in multiple jurisdictions and multiple commodities. So it's not tied to any single one project.
Yeah.
So when one project isn't working or something, it doesn't kill the whole company. And I tried to design it that way.
Okay.
I tried to spread out our risk across these different locations so we can have a lawsuit or something here which we've been able to manage or something. It doesn't affect the whole thing, but it's really important to be ethical. It's very important to do things right. We've tried to be here. It's wonderful. This is the 19th time we're here at the Rule Conference. It's been great, really working with Rick Rule and being here a long time, and so to have that. So I think it's really about just making sure that we don't have bad people in the company doing things that are incorrect.
Yeah.
So we really try to have lots of checks and balances, have a lot of ethics, and focus on quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, what should I have asked that I didn't? Any closing thoughts?
Well, I really love your show, and people come and say, Jamark, you got to do something with Steve. You got to do it in it to win it. You have a great following. It's really true. And I know when we did the first interview, it was like people liked it, people comment. I'm like, I got to go back and do it more with you. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
And you're really striving to do better and better, and it's great. And I'm really, just so much gratitude for what you do and how you do it. And so my closing thoughts is a thank you, really acknowledgement. I really appreciate it. We're all working so hard and you're doing great, and Rick Rule really loves what you do. It's really awesome, and it really means a lot, I think, to the industry and to your followers. They really do, and it's great. I travel the world, I travel these different places and be like, you got to do another video. So I really appreciate your taking the time.
You're very welcome, John.
It's really awesome.
You're very welcome. Alrighty, well, we will put John's link down below to Riverside Resources. Also, if you want to watch the replays of the Rule Symposium, there'll be a link down there as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and happy trading. For more content like this, check out these videos right here.